They say that if you get lost, you should probably go back the way that you came. But what happens if you're lost in your career and you have no idea how to make sense of the path behind you? That probably means you're a multi-potentialite. And I'm going to tell you today, in this short video, that being a multi-potentialite is not only really challenging, but every single career advice you've ever been given, it's probably wrong. So let's talk about what a multi-potentialite actually is. Well, it's basically someone like me. We thrive on variety. We love to do lots of things, and we probably prioritize learning over all else. We're basically wired differently from a lot of the population. Some people say generalists, some people call us scanners, some people say multi-hyphenates, some people say we're lost. And the advice that you're often given in situations like this is forge your own way, start your own business, maybe get into entrepreneurship or be in a startup or something. And I reckon that's just not right for everyone. And look, I'm speaking as someone who's done that, who is doing that, but I don't think it's right for everyone. And I don't think I would give that advice to everybody. And there are two main reasons why. The first up is that startups require a certain amount of focus. It's usually one audience, one problem, one solution. So you have to focus a lot. And if you're wired for variety like me, you're just not necessarily into that. You have to grind against one thing for a really long time. And sure, you're doing a lot of things, of course, and there is a lot of variation there. And being a startup founder needs you to do a lot of things. You wear many hats, but it's not right for everybody. The second thing is that this assumes a certain amount of, I don't know, economic stability or a certain amount of ability to take risk. And the amount of people that I see online who are telling you to go and take risks and coming off the back of a whole bunch of privilege is just crazy. I didn't have loads of money when I started my own business, but I had a certain amount of tolerance for risk that I felt meant I could probably take this. I had a career behind me that was pretty decent. I had a good network. I had a lot of things that were essentially unfair advantages compared to a lot of people, especially if you're just starting out. These days I run a coaching business. I have a newsletter. I have this YouTube channel. I have hundreds of thousands of streams on Spotify, do a lot of writing. I'm a father, I'm a runner, I'm into loads of different stuff. And I managed to balance all of those things, which is really great, and it works for me, but it's not for everybody. And some people just need a job. They might need it because of the stability, or actually they need it because they do need a certain amount of focus. And if that's you, well, one of the challenges is what kind of job should I find? Because a lot of people who are multi-potentialites start jobs and then find themselves getting burned out really quickly or just bored and moving on. So I'm going to talk to you about 4 of the jobs that I've had. I'm going to talk to you about why they worked for me as a multi-potentialite, and then I'm going to talk to you about spotting the hidden pattern between all of them so you can find a job that's right for you. Right, we're going to take a bit of a trip down memory lane now. First job I want to talk to you about is running a bar. This is what I did at the Cumberland Arms in Newcastle upon Tyne, straight out of university, way back in the olden days when everything was black and white. And honestly, I learned more from this job than I've learned from any other job, and that's not a lie. One, because I had an absolutely exceptional manager and a really brilliant team around me, shout out to Joe, but also just because running a bar is a myriad things. It is, well, it forces you to be a community manager, you're a project manager, you've got to do marketing, you're kind of a therapist to some people. There are so many different aspects to being a bar, and it's also very seasonal work. You're often doing improvements in the bar all the time. You have sort of mini focuses that you're working through every 3 months or 6 months, whether it's like improving stuff, new menus, new drinks, I don't know, there can be loads of different things. So on a macro level, you get loads of stuff to do. And then on a micro level, obviously every day is different, has new challenges, has new people. It's really interesting. So what happens then if you take a dash of that and then mix it with some extra creativity? Well, then you get the next job that I had. Now, the next job that I had that was perfect for multi-potentialites was as a festival manager and organizer. So these were digital and culture festivals. They often involved a lot of film and music and exhibitions, putting on art, lots of public interventions, those type of things. It's brilliant work for a multi-potentialist. What happens is that you basically have seasonal work. You're constantly working with different teams, often different themes as well, and you spread yourself on a yearly or annual basis across multiple of these festivals, giving you loads of input, and you get to deep dive into different areas. But on a daily basis, once you're working on these things, really interesting as well. You're doing a lot of communication, a lot of marketing, but also project management as well. So it's a mix of logistical and creative, and I just loved it. But after a while, I was kind of lacking stability. I needed something a little bit more solid, and that's what took me on my next big leap. So the next step in my career was taking over as Chief Product Officer at a technology and journalism company. It's called Storyful. It was the world's first social media newswire, and I was Chief Product Officer. By the end, I had 35 people working for me across 6 product teams. We had 20 products, and this role is the epitome of what suits a multi-potentialite in many ways. Big picture, you've got to do all the vision stuff. You've got to look at the roadmap. You've got to look at what's coming up. Know audiences, trends, really big picture, multiple year stuff. And then on the day-to-day, you need to try and help teams, of the multidisciplinary teams. So it's teams of designers and developers and product managers. You've got to help them really get efficient, really work together and focus around very small micro problems in very iterative, small frames of time, in sprints and things like that. And in many ways, this is the epitome of the work that suits a multi-potentialite. You've got to do the big vision stuff. You've got to look at roadmaps. You've got to understand audiences and massive industry trends. And then you day-to-day are working with multidisciplinary teams. You're working with designers and developers and product managers to focus around really small details and products in quite small increments of time. And I loved it. It gives you loads to work on. You've got something different every day. You've got a massive team full of different expertise. It was absolutely brilliant for me. It was the first time that I felt as a generalist, my broad base of skills was getting recognized and appreciated and understood for the first time. But there was a problem there as well, which often hits a lot of multi-potentialites and generalists like us, which is that I basically burned myself out. I didn't know what my limits were, and because I was working on so many things at once, I essentially just ended up as exhausted, completely burned out, and left the organization. And that's why I turned to what I'm doing now. It's a totally new way home. I've literally never walked this way on the other side of the stream. It's really nice. So this is a selection, just a small selection of the jobs that I've had to, I guess, give you an example as a generalist or multi-potentialite, how you can find a job that actually sates that appetite for doing many things, that helps you, even though you're wired differently, to build a career where learning is the top priority, where variety is really baked in to everything that you do. And I wonder if you spotted the thread that runs between each of those, because they're totally different jobs, but there are certain things that I think characterize each of those jobs that make them perfect for multi-potentialites. So let's talk about what kind of jobs multi-potentialites like and thrive in. Well, I think we know what you don't thrive in, right? We don't want any kind of rigid career structures. We don't want jobs that are too specialist or rein you into a single path. Those are just not going to be for you as a multi-potentialite. You need learning, you need variety. But I think it's quite easy to spot the wrong jobs. The harder ones are the right jobs, actually, because some jobs mask what they are and they look like they'd be great because they're full of variety, but they're actually not great for you. So fundamentally, we're looking for two things: micro challenges and macro challenges. And a good job for a multi-potentialite has to fulfill both. It needs micro challenges, and by that I mean on that every day there's got to be something interesting, there's got to be something new happening. So you saw from both the bar to the product manager to the festival manager, basically everything I did there, it was a different challenge every single day. That's what kept it exciting for me. I was working with a lot of people, encountering a lot of people, lots of different perspectives. That was like fuel for my creative energy and for my soul. And then you have to find a job that has macro challenges as well. So really big, high level challenges. Challenges that keep you thinking all the time. Challenges that mean you don't have extremely deep domain expertise, but constantly move towards and between things so that you're fueling that need inside you for learning, but you also never get bored of one thing. We're looking for something where there's no specific career ladder, where moving sideways or maybe even down is kind of encouraged, not frowned upon. And we're especially looking for you to try and work in cross-disciplinary teams, so with developers or designers or project managers or journalists or whatever it might be. Lots of different kinds of people will suit you perfectly. Teacher, perfect one. You might think that this is a specialist, but actually most teachers are just really good at teaching. It's not necessarily about one subject, and you'll find that a secondary school teacher will often teach multiple subjects. So a teacher is a perfect one. It allows you to go really deep in stuff, but it has a micro macro element to it that is basically unsurpassed. Every day there's new challenges, there's new classes, there's new students, of course, to get to grips with. It can be really exciting if you're a multi-potentialite. Another one is something like a UX designer, where you are constantly solving new problems, Your craft itself might involve interviewing, but might also involve drawing and graphic design, of course. So you can apply yourself in loads of different ways. It's both really creative, but it's also quite structured and logistical and technical as well. Then you have the kind of chief of staff roles. These are the roles where you're doing a lot of operations, a lot of logistics, a lot of people stuff. You're basically a problem solver, a full-time problem solver. You've got to keep your eye on the big picture, where this thing is going, whether you're working in politics or journalism or a corporation or the arts. And you also have to focus on the small picture, people day to day, getting stuff done, efficiency, being creative in how you solve problems that just come across your desk. However, all these jobs are particularly suited for, I guess, people who've been through higher education in some kind of way. They often require qualifications. And one of the issues about being a multi-potentialite is you sometimes don't make it through those because they are often specialist by their very nature. And if, like me, you maybe struggled to be really good at one thing at school, you might not end up going to university. So what is on offer for you? Well, I guess we can think about things like sales. I've had a number of sales jobs. My dad was also a salesman, and I think it suits multi-potentialites really, really well because you are dealing with different products, different people in different scenarios every single day. It's often not about domain expertise, but being really good at sales, being good at this meta discipline that sits across it. And you can move between different companies really quite easy, which is a lot of fun. Another one then is working in hospitality, of course. Working in a bar was, as I said, it was the best education I had in doing anything. It's community management, it's people, it's logistics, it's creative, it's all of those things. That will suit you perfectly. Finally, you should think about being a community builder of some kind. That might be in a software company, it might be in real life as a kind of social worker, it might be that you can do it inside a corporation, but community builders are often faced with lots of problems, bringing people together in a different job every single day. I think that stuff is perfect for multi-potentialites. Finally, there's a job that I've got, which is a coach. And I just love this, and I've settled into it. And it's not really about running my own business, although that really helps. It gives me a lot of flexibility. It allows me to put in my other creative pursuits like writing and music. It allows me to get my running done, allows me to be a present father most of the time. But really, coaching obviously just brings you new people who are working in different disciplines, and I don't need to be an expert in every single one of those spaces. I'm coaching lots of different types of people. I need to have enough knowledge that I can understand the context in which they're working, but they're the experts. I'm just helping them unlock their own knowledge and expertise. And so my skill is a meta skill. It's a skill of being a coach. It's a skill of listening, knowing when to hold back, and I think knowing when to try and give answers. And so just because I've dedicated my life to this and I've set up my own business, that doesn't mean you have to. A lot of people will tell you you need to do this as a multi-potentialite, go and be an entrepreneur, run a startup. You don't have to. You can find a job. You just have to make it work for you. And if you haven't found a job yet, that's not because you're the problem. It's because the job's the problem.
I'm not saying I've figured this out. I'm not saying you have to run your own business. But you don't have to force yourself into a career that doesn't fit. As I said at the start, most career advice for multi-potentialites is just wrong. And if you're struggling to find a career that makes sense, I promise you the problem isn't you. The problem is a world that overvalues specialism and undervalues how you're wired. The problem is, most jobs weren't designed for you. Thanks for being here. Likes and subscribes are always welcome. See you next time.